The streets of Jerusalem were humming as they always did during festival season. Traders called out their prices, sandals shuffled through dust, children chased each other between market stalls, and high above it all rose the temple, its shining stones catching the morning light. Inside those great courtyards, religion was in motion. Priests moved in long linen robes, pilgrims carried sacrifices, trumpets sounded in ritual sequences, coins clinked into collection chests as worshippers brought their offerings to God. At that very moment, Jesus sat quietly with his disciples in the court of women, the area where 13 chests stood for receiving gifts for the temple. Each chest was shaped like a trumpet, narrow at the top and broad at the base, designed for sound as much as storage. When the wealthy dropped in large silver coins, the metal rang loudly against the bronze. The noise was part of the performance, proof that devotion could be counted by volume. People stepped forward with confidence. Men in dignified robes tossed in heavy purses and nodded humbly as others watched. The disciples were impressed. They knew how much those silver coins were worth, how much bread they could buy, how much marble they could build. And then came someone almost invisible. An older woman, her veil plain and worn, her posture bent with years of work and sorrow. She walked slowly, her hands clutching something so small it could be hidden in her palm. She waited her turn in the shadow of the rich. One man barely noticed her as he stepped away, satisfied with his offering and his audience. When the space was clear, the woman approached quietly and dropped into tiny copper coins. They hardly made a sound, a faint clink, swallowed by the noise of the crowd. To everyone else, it was nothing, an offering worth less than a single mouthful of grain. But Jesus heard it. He always did notice the sounds the world overlooks. He called his disciples closer. "Truly I tell you," he said, "this poor widow has given more than all the others. They gave from their excess, but she, out of her poverty, put in all she had to live on." The disciples looked at him, confused. More. Her gift couldn't even buy oil for a single lamp. Jesus smiled, the kind of smile that sees beyond numbers. He wasn't measuring coins. He was measuring hearts. The others had given comfort. She had given trust. Let's linger there for a moment and picture her life. We don't know her name. Scripture never gives us that privilege. We only know her title, the widow. In her world, widowhood was almost a sentence. No husband meant no financial protection, no steady income, often no voice in society. She would have relied on charity herself, scraping meals from leftovers or gathering what others threw away. Yet, even from scarcity, she chose generosity. She didn't come to perform, she came to participate. She wasn't trying to impress heaven, she was trying to honor it. Behind those 2 coins lay nights of prayer, mornings of hunger, and a soul that still believed her little mattered to God. Jesus saw that. When the disciples saw transactions, Jesus saw trust. In his kingdom's economy, surrender always outweighs surplus. Now imagine the contrast. Not long after that moment, the same Jesus would watch. People give nothing, not coins this time, but mercy. Soon he'd face the Sanhedrin, then the cross. The city would celebrate the powerful and ignore the humble once again. The pattern repeats through history, riches applauded, quiet sacrifice forgotten. But in God's record, those 2 copper coins still echo louder than trumpets ever did. Let's think practically for a moment. When you and I give, it's easy to calculate budget, plan, weigh comfort. That's wise, but sometimes the heart of worship is risk. The miracle in the story isn't economics. It's faith that holds nothing back. Maybe she had 1 meal left. Maybe she'd saved those coins for new sandals or oil for her lamp. Still, she gave. Why? Because she believed God saw every cent, every moment, every need. Giving in faith says, "Lord, I may not have much, but you are my security." That's what makes her story eternal. It reveals what God values most. Motive over magnitude. We don't know what happened next. Did someone notice her and bless her with more? Did a stranger press coins into her hand later that day? Scripture is silent about any reward. Perhaps that's deliberate, because the reward wasn't in getting back. It was in letting go. That nameless widow walked away lighter than she came, empty-handed on earth but full-hearted in heaven. Her story whispers a question across centuries. What am I still clutching that God has asked me to trust him with? When Jesus pointed her out to the disciples, he was teaching more than economics, he was redefining greatness. People think generosity is for those who have much, but God says it begins the moment you give what costs you something. Generosity is not about money. It's about movement, the movement of faith from our hands to his. Maybe your 2 coins today are time, forgiveness, love, patience, or courage. Whatever they are, when you offer them fully, they don't stay small. God multiplies them into miracles. If you listen closely, you can almost hear that faint sound again, a soft double clink that still rings louder than 1,000 golden offerings. It's the sound of surrender, the sound heaven applauds. Jesus noticed it in a crowded temple. He still notices it now in quiet acts of kindness, unseen generosity, prayers whispered by tired hearts, and faith that keeps giving even when no one cheers. Reflection closing powerful summary for the final minute. The world measures worth by value. God measures it by willingness. The widow gave 2 coins. Jesus would soon give his life. In both gifts, heaven saw the same thing: complete trust. So whoever you are, whatever you have, give like she did. Not to be seen, but because you believe. Because the smallest act of faith offered sincerely can shake eternity. Generosity isn't measured in amounts, it's measured in love. What looks small to us can still look priceless to God.